Imagine someone who thrives on control suddenly realizing they have no power over you. That moment, priceless. And the truth is, 99.9% of narcissists simply cannot resist you when you master this one simple tactic. I'm about to reveal exactly what it is that flips the script, pulls them in, and makes you untouchable, even if they've tried to manipulate you for years. By the end of this, you'll understand the subtle art that leaves them powerless. If you're ready to reclaim your power and watch narcissists scramble without even saying a word, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, the strategies I'm sharing will completely shift the way you're approached and the way you experience relationships forever. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where you end and another person begins. And when it comes to dealing with narcissists, they are your most powerful weapon. A narcissist thrives on control and manipulation. They feed off confusion, guilt, and overextension. When you clearly establish your limits, you remove the playground they depend on to exert influence. This isn't about being harsh or confrontational. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to compromise your peace for someone else's ego. The moment you assert that certain behaviors are unacceptable or that you won't tolerate emotional manipulation, you send a signal that is impossible for them to ignore. It's like turning off the faucet they were secretly relying on for attention and validation. They can try to twist, provoke, or guilt you, but a firm boundary is unyielding. It creates a kind of magnetic tension because they are wired to pursue what they can't control. The more you maintain your boundaries, the more they are drawn in, trying to figure out how someone could stand so firmly, so calmly, and so unapologetically in their own power. Boundaries are not walls, they're bridges to self-respect. They communicate clearly that your time, energy, and emotions are not up for grabs, and in doing so, they elevate your value in your own eyes and in the eyes of the narcissist. Interestingly, it's not aggression that attracts them, it's restraint. Saying no without fear, declining requests that drain you, walking away from manipulative situations, and refusing to engage in petty drama all send a subtle yet undeniable message. You are no longer an easy target. This makes you irresistible because humans, including narcissists, are inherently drawn to confidence and independence. They can't resist someone who refuses to be baited or controlled because it triggers a mix of curiosity and challenge in their mind. Maintaining boundaries also teaches you to honor yourself consistently, which shifts the dynamic of any interaction. You are no longer reactive, you are proactive in protecting your energy. The act of setting boundaries transforms your presence from one of pliability to one of magnetic strength. Every time you assert your limits, you reinforce your autonomy and signal that your life operates on your terms, not theirs. In essence, boundaries are the silent power that draws narcissists in. They crave what they can't dominate, and your unshakable limits create a tension they find impossible to resist, all while you remain calm, confident, and fully in control of your own life. The unbothered factor is one of the most powerful psychological triggers when dealing with a narcissist, and it operates on a very simple principle. People who remain calm and composed in the face of manipulation become magnetic. Narcissists thrive on reactions. They seek emotional responses, drama, and signs of vulnerability to maintain their sense of control. When they encounter someone who doesn't give them the expected reaction, someone who doesn't overreact, over-explain, or get visibly upset, it disrupts their pattern. Being unbothered is not about suppressing your feelings or ignoring injustice. It's about choosing not to hand over your emotional energy for their entertainment or control. When you respond with calm neutrality instead of anger, guilt, or panic, you essentially remove the fuel they rely on to feel powerful. This triggers a kind of fascination because narcissists are wired to pursue what they cannot easily manipulate. When you show that their attempts to provoke or unsettle you are ineffective, you inadvertently become a challenge, and challenges attract them more than compliance ever could. There's also an element of mystery involved. Someone who remains unbothered creates a sense of unpredictability. The narcissist cannot read or anticipate your behavior, which disrupts their usual strategies and makes them intensely curious. They want to know why their usual tactics don't work, why this person isn't reacting the way everyone else does, and more importantly, what it would take to gain influence. This curiosity draws them in, but it does so on your terms rather than theirs. Being unbothered also communicates a deep level of self-respect and confidence. Narcissists are subconsciously attracted to individuals who value themselves because it challenges their need to dominate. Your calm composure signals that you are not dependent on their validation, praise, or approval, and that you exist independently of their attempts to manipulate your emotions. Every time you maintain your cool, every time you smile in silence or simply walk away, you reinforce the fact that your emotional state is under your control, not theirs. Over time, this consistency builds an irresistible presence, one that narcissists can't help but notice. Being unbothered isn't about being cold or distant, it's about creating an aura of invulnerability that draws them in while keeping your boundaries intact, making you magnetic in a way that no amount of drama, pleading, or manipulation could achieve. Mystery and inaccessibility are potent tools when it comes to dealing with narcissists because they thrive on predictability and control. A narcissist's strategy is often rooted in understanding their target completely, what makes them tick, what will provoke them, and how they can bend them to their will. When you introduce an element of mystery, when you refuse to be fully predictable or always available, it immediately disrupts their sense of control. Being mysterious doesn't mean being secretive for the sake of deception. It's about maintaining an independent life, having personal priorities, and keeping certain aspects of yourself private. It's the subtle choice to not overshare, to engage with discretion, and to allow your life to unfold on your own terms. Inaccessibility works hand in hand with mystery. When you are not constantly at the narcissist's beck and call, when you don't drop everything to respond to their whims or demands, you create a magnetic tension that they find impossible to ignore. This is because narcissists are used to people bending toward them. They are accustomed to compliance and instant availability. When they encounter someone who has their own rhythm, their own boundaries, and their own agenda, it creates a puzzle they instinctively want to solve. Mystery also engages curiosity and imagination. Narcissists begin to fill in the gaps, projecting fantasies or overanalyzing behaviors, trying to figure out the why behind your independence. They are drawn to the unknown because it is a challenge, and challenges naturally attract attention. Furthermore, mystery signals strength. It communicates that your life is not dictated by their validation or control, and that your energy is protected. This makes you more desirable in their eyes because it demonstrates self-respect and autonomy. The more consistent you are in maintaining your personal boundaries, the more they become fascinated by what they cannot fully possess or predict. In essence, mystery and inaccessibility act like a magnet, The more you hold your life and attention for yourself, the stronger the pull they feel. Unlike manipulation or reactive behavior, which can push a narcissist away, mystery draws them closer, but on your terms. It's the subtle power of being fully present in your own world while remaining partially unknowable to them. This dynamic creates intrigue, respect, and a magnetic energy that narcissists simply cannot resist, making you both unattainable and irresistibly fascinating at the same time. Confidence and self-worth are among the most magnetic qualities you can possess, especially when dealing with narcissists. Narcissists are naturally drawn to people who value themselves because it challenges their usual tactics of control and manipulation. When you are grounded in your own sense of worth, when you project a quiet confidence that is independent of their approval, you become instantly compelling. This isn't about arrogance or superiority. It's about clarity and stability. Narcissists seek out insecurity because it is easy to exploit, but someone who radiates self-respect becomes unpredictable and difficult to dominate. Confidence signals that your life is guided by your values, your goals, and your standards, rather than their whims or opinions. This creates a magnetic tension. They want what they cannot control. Self-worth also influences the way you respond in interactions. A person who knows their value does not chase attention, does not beg for validation, and does not engage in unnecessary drama. Every reaction or lack of reaction reflects an internal strength that narcissists find irresistible. When you walk into a room with calm composure and a quiet certainty, they are immediately aware of a shift in energy. It challenges their assumptions and stimulates their curiosity. Furthermore, confidence acts as a protective shield. The more secure you are in yourself, the less susceptible you become to manipulation or guilt. Narcissists may attempt to provoke you, but a strong sense of self-worth allows you to respond on your terms, or not at all. You maintain authority over your emotions, your time, and your decisions. This self-possession is what makes you magnetic. It's not about giving them something to desire, but rather showing that you are complete, independent, and unapologetically aligned with your own life. Over time, this confidence builds an aura that cannot be ignored. Narcissists who are wired to pursue and conquer find themselves drawn to someone who refuses to be conquered. The subtle power of self-worth is that it communicates strength without aggression. You do not need to prove anything to anyone, and that is exactly what makes you irresistible. The combination of confidence, self-respect, and emotional stability creates a presence that commands attention, attracts curiosity, and disrupts their usual patterns of manipulation. In short, confidence and self-worth are not just protective tools, they are magnetic forces that make narcissists irresistibly drawn to your independence, composure, and self-possession. The silent treatment, when used strategically, can be one of the most effective tools against a narcissist, not as a form of punishment, but as a way to regain control and assert your boundaries. Narcissists are masters of emotional manipulation. They thrive on reaction, drama, and constant engagement. When you suddenly withdraw your attention or stop providing the emotional fuel they rely on, it creates a vacuum that they instinctively want to fill. The key here is intentionality. This is not about passive aggressiveness or letting anger dictate your behavior. It is about consciously choosing to withhold responses that serve no purpose other than satisfying their need for control. When you employ silence strategically, you force the narcissist into a state of uncertainty. They begin to wonder why their usual tactics aren't working. why their words and actions no longer provoke the expected reactions. This uncertainty disrupts their sense of dominance and creates a magnetic tension because humans, including narcissists, are naturally drawn to that which they cannot easily understand or influence. Silence becomes a tool of empowerment. It allows you to preserve your energy, protect your emotions, and maintain clarity in your interactions. By refusing to engage in unnecessary arguments, debates, or explanations, you demonstrate that you are not accessible for manipulation. This subtle withdrawal of attention also shifts the power dynamic. Narcissists are used to being the center of focus, but when you stop reacting, you take back control of the narrative. They are forced to redirect their attention, often trying to decode your behavior, which can make them more attentive or even curious about your life, all without you saying a single word. Importantly, using silence as leverage is different from emotional detachment or coldness. It's a mindful strategy that reinforces your boundaries while communicating strength. You are not giving them the satisfaction of seeing you affected or unsettled. Over time, this consistent approach creates a pattern. You become someone whose energy cannot be easily exploited, whose attention cannot be bought with drama or guilt. The allure of your calm, controlled presence grows because it contrasts sharply with the reactive or pliable people they are used to manipulating. In essence, strategic silence is magnetic. It is the quiet assertion of power, independence, and self respect, creating a psychological pull that narcissists find difficult to resist, leaving them intrigued, attentive, and subtly compelled to engage with you on your terms rather than theirs. Redirecting attention is a subtle but incredibly powerful strategy when dealing with narcissists because it removes the fuel they rely on while simultaneously asserting your independence. Narcissists crave constant attention, admiration, and validation. Their sense of self often depends on how much control they have over your focus and emotions. When you consciously redirect your attention away from their games and toward your own life, your goals, and your passions, you disrupt their expectations and reclaim your power. This doesn't mean ignoring important matters or being disrespectful. It's about choosing where your energy goes. By focusing on yourself, your growth, your happiness, your ambitions, you send a clear signal. Your life is not dictated by their whims, and your emotional state is under your control. Narcissists find this incredibly frustrating because it defies their habitual patterns of manipulation. They are wired to elicit reactions, to create drama, and to dominate interactions. But when you refuse to hand them your focus, they are forced into a position of uncertainty and intrigue. Redirecting attention also strengthens your internal boundaries. Instead of getting drawn into arguments, guilt trips, or attempts to provoke you, you consciously invest your energy where it matters most, on yourself. This shift is not only protective, but magnetic. Narcissists are attracted to people who embody self sufficiency and resilience because it challenges their usual strategies and ignites curiosity. The more consistent you are in redirecting your attention, the more they notice the difference in your behavior, the calm confidence you exude, and the life you lead outside of their influence. It also demonstrates that you are not dependent on their approval or validation, which makes you both mysterious and desirable in their eyes. Importantly, redirecting attention is about presence, are not absence. You are fully engaged in your own life, fully alive and fully in control, which contrasts sharply with the reactive, dependent, or pliable people narcissists often encounter. This contrast creates a natural pull because they are instinctively drawn to what they cannot control or predict. Over time, your consistent focus on yourself rather than their manipulations becomes a form of silent power. They cannot resist noticing the autonomy, confidence, and magnetism you radiate, and their attempts to regain attention often only reinforce your position. Redirecting attention is not about avoidance, it is about prioritization. By investing your energy in your life, your growth, and your happiness, you create a magnetic presence that is irresistible to narcissists because it is grounded in independence, strength, and self respect. Non reactive responses are one of the most effective ways to disarm a narcissist, and they work because they break the cycle of manipulation and control that narcissists rely on. Narcissists feed on reactions, anger, frustration, guilt, or even over explaining provides them with validation and a sense of power. When you respond calmly and without visible emotional reaction, you remove the reward they are seeking and force them into a state of uncertainty. This isn't about suppressing feelings or pretending nothing affects you. It's about choosing your responses consciously and refusing to hand over your emotional energy to someone else's drama. A non reactive response creates a psychological tension because it is unexpected. Narcissists are accustomed to people bending toward them, to predictable patterns of behavior, and to emotional volatility they can exploit. When faced with someone who maintains composure, they are intrigued. Their curiosity is piqued, and their usual tactics begin to fail, which can make them more attentive and focused on you. Not in control, but in observation. Non reactivity also communicates strength and self possession. It demonstrates that your emotional state is governed by you, not by someone trying to manipulate you. When you respond with neutrality, measured words, or even silence, you show that you cannot be easily swayed, that your boundaries are firm, and that your energy is not for the taking. This consistency builds a magnetic presence because it contrasts sharply with the reactive behavior narcissists expect. Over time, non reactive responses teach them that you are no longer a source of validation or drama, which can make them increasingly drawn to you, not because of compliance, but because of the calm, confident authority you exude. It's a subtle psychological pull, like a puzzle they want to solve, a force they cannot dominate. Importantly, non reactivity does not mean disengagement from your life or ignoring important issues. It's about maintaining clarity and composure in the face of manipulation, prioritizing your own emotional integrity over their attempts to provoke you. By practicing non reactive responses, you not only protect yourself from emotional exploitation, but also cultivate a magnetic presence that is irresistible to narcissists. Your calm, measured demeanor signals independence, strength, and confidence, all qualities that naturally attract attention and intrigue, making you a person whose energy cannot be controlled or ignored. In essence, non reactive responses transform interactions from battlegrounds into arenas of quiet power, where your composure becomes the force that draws narcissists in rather than pushing them away. Subtle empowerment phrases are an understated but incredibly effective tool for influencing narcissists because they communicate confidence, independence, and self respect without aggression or confrontation. Narcissists are highly attuned to language and tone. They constantly assess what is being said to gauge your emotional state, vulnerabilities, and level of control. By choosing words that assert your autonomy in a calm, clear, and non reactive way, you establish a psychological boundary that is both powerful and magnetic. These phrases are not about lecturing, arguing, or proving yourself. They are about stating your position with quiet authority. For example, saying things like, I'm focused on my priorities, or I choose to spend my energy wisely, signals that your attention, time, and emotions are yours to manage. Narcissists are wired to pursue what they perceive as valuable and yet unattainable, and subtle empowerment phrases create exactly that dynamic. They make you unavailable to manipulation while simultaneously sparking curiosity and intrigue. The beauty of these phrases lies in their simplicity. You do not need long explanations or justifications. A brief, confident statement can shift the energy of an interaction entirely, leaving the narcissist unsettled yet compelled to engage. Over time, consistent use of empowerment phrases establishes a pattern. You communicate that your self worth is non negotiable and that your life is guided by your own principles, not by someone else's agenda. This pattern becomes magnetic because it contrasts sharply with the reactive or pliable behaviors narcissists expect. They are drawn to people whose energy cannot be easily dominated, whose boundaries are firm, and whose independence is unmistakable. Subtle empowerment phrases also reinforce internal confidence. Every time you assert yourself in a calm, measured way, you strengthen your belief in your own authority and control over your life. This internal shift manifests externally, creating a presence that is both compelling and untouchable. Importantly, these phrases are effective because they do not provoke defensiveness or conflict. They quietly convey power, which narcissists instinctively notice and cannot resist. They create a psychological pull, drawing the narcissist's attention without surrendering control, without drama, and without emotional compromise. In essence, subtle empowerment phrases are like silent signals of magnetic strength. They communicate that you are self possessed, confident, and untouchable, creating an aura of independence that narcissists find irresistibly captivating while you remain fully in control of your life, your choices, and your energy. So, let's bring it all together. When you establish boundaries, remain unbothered, cultivate mystery, embody confidence, leverage silence, redirect your attention, stay non reactive, and use subtle empowerment phrases, you step into a space of undeniable power. You are no longer a passive participant in someone else's games. You become the calm, composed, and magnetic force they cannot resist. It's not about control, revenge, or manipulation. It's about living fully in your own truth and valuing yourself enough to protect your energy. When you do this, consistently, you shift the dynamics completely. Narcissists who thrive on reaction and chaos find themselves drawn to you, not because you chase them, but because your independence, composure, and self respect create a pull they can't ignore. This is the ultimate transformation. You reclaim your power, you command respect silently, and you become irresistibly magnetic simply by being who you are. Remember, the more you honor yourself, the more they notice and the less they can manipulate. Stand firm, stay calm, live your life on your terms, and watch as the world, including narcissists, responds to the energy you radiate. Your freedom, your peace, and your presence are your most potent tools, and when you wield them with confidence, nothing can resist you.